I'm Dr. Michelle Crum, coming to you from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Tyler to talk to you about the Janssen vaccine. Janssen is a group within Johnson & Johnson. You may hear the vaccine developed by Janssen referred to as the Johnson & Johnson or J&J vaccine for this reason. This vaccine requires only one dose, and it has easier storage requirements than some other vaccines that are already approved. For this reason, this vaccine may be offered in areas where cold storage of a vaccine is challenging. This vaccine contains instructions to make the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 in the form of DNA. It's packaged into the shell of an adenovirus. This packaging allows the cell to take up the adenovirus after vaccination and use the DNA instructions to make the spike protein. Once it's displayed on those cells, the instructions are discarded and the vaccinated person's immune system is notified of this intruder, and it begins to make antibodies and later B and T cell responses to SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. This protects the individual from a natural infection by readying the immune system to respond quickly. On February 27, 2021, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued an emergency use authorization, or an EUA, for the third vaccine for the prevention of COVID-19 caused by SARS-CoV-2. Before I share the results, I would like to briefly explain how the numbers are calculated. So there's been quite a bit of discussion about efficacy, but what does that mean? And what does that mean for you? Consider that new vaccines undergo clinical trials to test how well they work. And the main goals of the vaccine candidate are determined by vaccine developers, and those are called the primary endpoints. For many COVID-19 vaccines currently in development, the primary endpoint focus on preventing new cases of symptomatic COVID-19. Keep in mind that the estimation currently is that at least 40% of cases of COVID-19 are asymptomatic, not symptomatic. Scientists calculate how well a vaccine candidate works by looking at the difference in new cases of the disease between the group receiving a placebo and the group receiving the vaccine candidate. This is expressed as vaccine efficacy. There are many factors that influence efficacy. Some of the most important ones relative to the J&J vaccine include the geographic location of the trial, what outcomes are measured, and the time point after vaccination when these measurements are taken. Johnson & Johnson ran trials at 3 sites in the U.S., Latin America, and South Africa. The overall efficacy was lower than that in the United States alone, most likely due to the variant present in South Africa during the trial. This variant is called B.1.351 and contains mutations that enable it to evade some of the antibodies produced by vaccination. Despite this, in South Africa, Johnson & Johnson's efficacy was 64%. It is important to consider this because this variant was not circulating during the Pfizer and Moderna trials. This is one reason why the 3 EUA-approved vaccines against COVID-19 cannot be directly compared for efficacy. When looking at the trial, the total number in the clinical trial were 39,321 participants. 19,630 received the vaccine, and 19,691 received a placebo. Looking at the efficacy, the J&J vaccine was on average 66% efficacious at blocking moderate and severe disease. For U.S. participants, the vaccine was 74.4% efficacious at 14 days post-vaccination and 72% efficacious at 28 days post-vaccination in preventing moderate to severe or critical COVID-19. These numbers are very important because they're different from what we saw measured for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. The vaccine was 85% effective against severe disease cases no matter what infectious variant was present, and the vaccine protected against deaths and hospitalizations. In summary, all the vaccines against COVID-19 currently approved by EUA have a high efficacy against outcomes of hospitalization and death. For example, no one who got J&J's vaccine had to go to the hospital for a COVID-19 infection 28 days or more after getting an injection. 16 people who got the placebo did. That translates to 100% efficacy. Also, once a vaccine goes into widespread use, researchers continue to follow its performance. At this point, instead of efficacy, these scientists now measure effectiveness, how much the vaccine reduces the risk of disease in your community. So now that you have more information on the vaccine and what efficacy means, I hope you use this information to protect yourself with vaccination when you're offered a vaccine. In addition, I hope you continue to mask, physically distance, and stay safe during this time. Let's continue to work together to end this pandemic. Thanks for listening and walking with me.